Welcome to Infinity Capital, everyone. This is Raj. So today we are going to analyze Varroc Engineering. So Varroc Engineering is a very old company. It was formed in 1988. Okay, and it's an auto component manufacturing company. So they are the leading tier 1 manufacturer and supplier to Indian two-wheeler and three-wheeler OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. Sixth largest global exterior automotive lighting manufacturer, and one of the top 3 independent exterior lighting players. Right. So we'll just go on the company website and try and understand what the business is all about. So they have 4 types of businesses. They make polymer products, so plastic products which are used in two-wheelers, three-wheelers, two-wheelers and four-wheelers, electronical equipment, metallic equipments, and lighting systems. So let's look at what sort of products these guys are making, right? So your polymer products are, your air filters, anything which is basically a plastic assembly, you know, in either your car or a two-wheeler. So this is what these guys make. Polymer advanced seating systems, decorative seats, so on and so forth. So anything that has to do with a plastic polymer product, that is what they make. In the electrical and electronics, they will make catalytic converters. Then they have, traction motor controllers. So anything that has to do with the electrical electronics of the car, digital instrument clusters, injection driver unit, regulator, rectifier, so on and so forth, right? Now, in the metallic segment, it's pretty self-explanatory. They'll be making metallic components which are used in the car. So, traction assembly, connecting rod, crankshaft, and so on and so forth. And the last unit of the business is lighting systems. So, they make all sort of exterior lighting systems for the car. These are the products that they are making: halogen, xenon, LED with AFS, so on and so forth. So these are the primary businesses. Now, out of these 4 businesses, the metallic business is something which is not a very niche or a high margin business, because there are a lot of players in this. However, if you look at even the polymer business, because there is no patents or of any kind, or there is no great market share of any kind, so it's more or less like a commodity business. But when you look at the lighting systems and the electrical electronics, these are the places where you get more pricing power and margin in these 2 businesses. So apart from that, if we look at the company's business location, so this is a very big company. They are located all around the world. So if you see, they have operations in Europe, they have operations in all around Asia, they have operations in North America, USA, South America, Brazil, Morocco. So they've acquired a couple of companies recently, right? So if we come to Screener and if we look here, we'll look at the product wise revenue. So electrical and lighting auto parts make 51% of their revenue, which is the higher margin, better pricing power products. The metallic products make 19%. Aftermarket auto parts make 13%. This will be your, those seats and the plastic products they make. Polymer auto parts make 9%. Engine valves make 5%. So it's pretty spread out, in terms of the kind. It is not a single product revenue company. So there is less risk in terms of single. If it's only a single product company wherein it makes just one thing, then the risk on the company is very high, because if that product is not selling, then the company can continue to do bad, or it can continue to have less sales and less profitability. So 63% of their revenue comes from 4-wheelers, 34% comes from 2 and 3-wheelers, right? Now, interesting thing about Varroc is that 49% of their revenue comes from Europe, 33 from India, and 15 from North America. So the car sales in US has actually picked up pretty well. because interest rates are very, very low over there, and we have seen an uptick in car sales in America. Um, I have not done much research on Europe, but I'll get back to you on this. However, we have seen a very low interest regime throughout the world. So we will see an uptick in exports also. In India, if we have great monsoon coming going forward, we can see uptick in two-wheeler sales going forward. So this is something. This is a good mix. We are focused on export oriented companies right now because the sales in America are going up. So we are expecting uptick in sales for auto ancillary companies also. So they've done a lot of expansion. So they bought one company in Turkey. So they've acquired a Turkey based interior exterior lighting manufacturer and so on and so forth. And they have around 42 manufacturing facilities spread all across the world, right? They had a small fire in their Hinjewadi Pune plant in 2020. See, they also have R&D centers spread across India, so they do have R&D wherein they keep doing research and coming up with new products. So they have around 185 patents, right? They're spending around 0.5% of their revenue in R&D. That's pretty decent. Right, it's an auto manufacturing company. It is not a biotech company. Biotech companies usually their R&D spends are on the higher side, anywhere between 3 to 6%. Right. Now let's look at the shareholding pattern. Interesting stuff. So the company was going through some working capital issues, and they needed money also because they had a loss. So if you see, the company had a loss of 632 crores. So we'll come to this a little later. So the sorry guys. So the promoters have actually diluted 10% of their equity. So if you see, in December 2020 they had 85% stake. Now they have only 75% stake in the company. They have diluted some equity. So earlier mutual funds held 2.3%. Now they hold 5.2%. So this essentially, I can show you who has bought this 3%. So this is Trendline. Nippon Life India is the company which has bought 3.7% stake in this company. So this acquisition was done in March 2021, and this was a preferential allotment. So basically, they have bought this much stake in Varroc Engineering. So you have to understand, guys, that if such a big company buys 4% stake in a company, they see some value in the company, right? Just because the company is making losses doesn't mean that it's a bad company. So this is noteworthy. Apart from this, if you'll see that in December, DIIs owned 6%, and now they own 14% stake. So DIIs have also increased 8% of their stake in the company. So I'm pretty certain that the fact that big institutions are jumping in and buying stake in this company, we can see some sort of uptick in this company going forward, right? So this is about the shareholding pattern. This is something important that I wanted to discuss. Moving forward, they've been generating positive cash flow since 2015. So this looks good. On the balance sheet front, they've managed to sort of minimize their borrowings a little bit, so by around 40% or so. Now, interesting thing about this company, if you see, is that their gross block has gone up from roughly around 3,000 to 7,000. Okay, so they are doing capacity expansion, and this is the reason why the gross block has gone up by 4,000 crores. So this is also putting pressure on the profitability, because the accumulated depreciation has gone up from 600 crores to 2,000 crores. The depreciation has gone up by 300 basis points, right? Plus they have around 800 crores of capital stuck in working capital. So this is also noteworthy. So when a company takes capacity expansion, there is a lot of money that is used in building up capacities, building up factories, right? And if the factory, if you're still putting money in the factory, and you are incurring depreciation, because let's assume that you've bought land and you've made a factory on top of it, but it is not operational yet. So on your balance sheet, you will have to depreciate. The depreciation starts from, you know, the next financial year. So this also takes a toll on the profitability of the company. Apart from that, they have around 376 crores of investments, and they have around 745 crores of cash on the book. So this looks pretty decent. Okay. Let's look at the profit and loss. So the company was making good profits earlier. All right. And what's interesting is that, you know, the sales have not fallen drastically. The sales are pretty much stable. From, if you look at from 2018, the sales are up around 10%, right? So from the peak of March 2018, the sales are up 10%, and compared to last year also, the sales are pretty robust. Although the sales have not gone up, but they've not also fallen drastically. Now look at something interesting here. Even though the company made the same amount of sales, their expenses rose, and that is the reason why their operating profit is much lesser. On 11,000 crore of sales, their operating profit was 800 crore last year. But on 11,000 crore of sales, their operating profit is only 397 crores this year. So material cost has gone up. Obviously, there is logistical supply chain issues all around the world. That has pushed their material cost pretty higher, right? And you know, there are these other costs which have gone up by 16%. So this could be related to you know, COVID related issues, supply chain related issues. You know, they had a fire last year in their factory. It could be because of that also. They have acquired new companies, so the transitionary phase takes up some sort of capital and expenses. So this could be because of that, right? And that is the reason why, even though we have 11,000 crore of sales, the operating profit is only 400 crores. Now, when we come to the other interest, the depreciation section, if you'll see, guys, that depreciation has gone up from 500 crores to 900 crores. So once the facilities are up and running, we will see a sudden spurt in sales and profitability going up. Now, interesting thing is that this company has been posting, you know, continuously it has been posting losses. These are 5 quarters of losses, and even if we see a single quarter of flat earnings or probably a positive earnings, we will see a very sharp rally in this company. Let's do a PE analysis. So the median PE is around 14. Stock is trading at a PE of around 8. So looks pretty good in my opinion. Let's quickly go on to the technical analysis. So the stock got listed in 2018, and you know, it has been hammered down by 90%, but it staged a pretty great rally from the COVID bottom. So it's up around 300%, and now the stock is basically trying to consolidate within this range. This is the 40, you know, this is the range, 39-40% range. This is the range in which the stock is trying to consolidate, right? Let's quickly look at the long-term moving averages also. The 200-day is trending upwards, 50-day is trending sideways. So what is the trade here? I will be looking to accumulate the stock within this range. This is the range that I am looking to accumulate the stock in. So between 320 to 350. This is the price range in which I am looking to accumulate the stock. Now, considering the fact that this company is posting continuous losses and they have incurred heavy capex, there is a possibility that, you know, we might have, the stock might correct further. So if you know, if the losses are not very high, we will look to buy. Even if it falls further, we will look to buy more. We will look to add more. So let's assume that the stock we are buying here, and if the stock falls further to around 250, 270, we'll be looking to add, right? My understanding is that the worst has already been factored into the pricing of this stock, and we'll be seeing a good recovery moving forward. So the chances of this stock crashing looks very slim in my opinion. But see, I can be wrong as well. So we will basically take a decision when when the stock is crashing or probably it's falling badly. We will take a decision then. What sort of targets that we are looking at? So the timeline is 2 quarters. We'll be holding the stock for at least 2 quarters. We'll be looking at least a 40 to 50% up move initially, and then we can probably book some profits and wait for a higher target. Now, if you see, guys, this is the price range in which the stock traded for roughly 1 year, post which it broke down. So there are a lot of people who are stuck here, and every time the stock moves into this zone, it faces selling pressure. But if we are able to move above this zone technically, then we can see we can see a good up move, at least 100% move above this level, above the level of say, if we continuously close above 550, 560, we can see 1120, 1150 pretty soon, right? So this is the analysis, guys. A quick disclaimer, this is not a buy sell recommendation, it's an educational video. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone.